She clinked her champagne flute 3 times and tapped her stiletto heel against the polished floor like she was summoning a damn audience. Everyone turned toward the makeshift stage, the edge of a rented bar lounge inside a converted tech museum, where Claire, my ex-wife, smiled with the kind of confidence only people in tailored navy blazers and freshly bleached teeth could afford. "I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight," she began, eyes scanning the circle of colleagues and execs. "It's not every day we close a multi-region expansion, and as a bonus, I'm thrilled to introduce someone very special to me. Well, formerly special." Some chuckles. My stomach tightened. She pointed toward me, drink raised like I was a circus act. "This is Adam, my ex-husband. No degree, no future, but he does make an excellent chili and is apparently still available for dish duty if anyone's short a caterer." Laughter. Real, open-mouthed laughter. A VP I once helped carry a wine fridge through a 4-floor walk-up wiped tears from his eyes. I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I lifted my own glass, nodded once, and said, "Cheers." Then I added, flat as steel, "You'll never see me again." And I walked. No slam of the door, no dramatics, just leather soles brushing marble as I left 25 smirking faces behind. Outside, the air tasted different, like metal and pine sap, like freedom in disguise. See, Claire always thought silence was weakness. She thought if I didn't yell, I'd given up. But some men don't explode, some just build in silence. She never understood that, never cared to. What she also doesn't understand, and likely never will, is that humiliation like that doesn't just sting. It engraves itself somewhere under your ribs, where the shame sours into something colder, more precise. I didn't cry that night. I didn't rage or spiral. I got in my car, turned off my phone, and drove 2 hours north to a cheap rental cabin I'd quietly prepaid for 6 months in advance. No Wi-Fi, no service, just a kettle, a fireplace, and a whiteboard I nailed to the wall with a hammer I borrowed from the old woman next door. She thought she'd ended me with a joke. She didn't realize she'd just launched something, because what she didn't know, what none of them knew, is that I'd been preparing for that moment for exactly 314 days. That wasn't an office party. That was my green light. I erased my accounts the next morning. LinkedIn, gone. Facebook, nuked. I didn't need noise. I needed space to build. And while I have your attention, because clearly you're still listening, do me one favor. Hit subscribe. It costs nothing, but more than 97% of you listen without ever clicking it. That one click motivates my team to keep going, to go deeper, to bring you stories no one else will touch. You want more like this? Then help fuel the engine. Back to Claire. You'd think after a stunt like that, she'd text. Maybe a guilt-laced apology, or at least some half-hearted PR-friendly, "Sorry if that came off wrong." She didn't, because in her mind, I was disposable. Dead weight she'd carried during her early career, back when we lived in a moldy 1-bedroom and split gas station burritos like royalty. But it's funny what happens when you subtract distraction and ego from a man's life. You find out what's left when no one's looking. Me? I started with nothing but a cracked laptop, 3 idea journals, and a secondhand hoodie that still smelled like her perfume. I wore it like armor. By day, I studied. I rebuilt my skills, design, back-end frameworks, UI flows, relearning everything I let rot while I played stay-at-home support staff while she chased the promotions. By night, I drew blueprints, mocked up app flows, printed case studies from a public library in town and annotated them like they were sacred texts. The man Claire humiliated at that party, he was gone. The one she created that night, he didn't want her back. He wanted something far bigger, and he'd take it. Not with revenge, with ownership. Claire didn't check her phone that night. She was too busy basking in the glow of her own brilliance, another flawless event, another moment of control. The drinks had flowed, her coworkers laughed at all the right moments, and her newest conquest from business development whispered she looked dangerously competent in that backless navy dress. It wasn't until she got home, unzipped her dress one-handed while scrolling through her inbox, that she noticed the absence. No missed calls, no dramatic texts, no passive-aggressive posts. Adam, usually the king of delayed reactions, had vanished. She refreshed Instagram. Nothing. She checked Messenger. Empty. By morning, his number returned a not-in-service error. For a few hours, she savored the silence. Maybe he finally learned to take a joke, she muttered while applying her eye serum. But by lunch, she opened their old shared Dropbox out of sheer boredom. The folder he used for tinkering with random startup ideas, the one titled "What _ if _ someday _ V5, was gone. Not empty, Deleted. Claire frowned. She told herself it didn't matter, but curiosity is a slow rot. What she didn't know, couldn't have imagined, is that 2 hours after leaving the party, Adam pulled into a gravel driveway 34 miles outside city limits, next to a one-story cabin with wood paneling and a leaky roof. The place had no internet, no TV, no Alexa chirping weather updates, just space, and the kind of quiet that drives most people insane. He unpacked a duffel bag, 2 laptops, 4 sketch pads, a whiteboard, and a folder labeled R Framework. The first thing he did was delete every app that had ever distracted him. Twitter, Reddit, Discord, gone. Next, he installed 4 programs: Figma, Visual Studio Code, Obsidian, and a music player filled with nothing but instrumental jazz. He spent the next 3 weeks in isolation. Sleep, code, eat, research, repeat. Claire thought no ambition meant no plan. She never noticed the black leather notebook he kept by his side during their marriage. She once used it as a coaster. In that cabin, he opened it. Each page held diagrams of workflows, interface ideas, and something titled Streamline Gate Logic. He wasn't starting from scratch. He was refining what he'd been quietly designing since before she made her first $100K. During the day, he watched YouTube tutorials on advanced data structuring. At night, he downloaded open-source tools and dissected them like a surgeon. He drew wireframes with a pencil and ruler, no fancy tools, just clarity. In that silence, something terrifying happened. He started enjoying it. No meetings, no pretending to laugh at Claire's boss's jokes, no dinners with her colleagues where he had to explain why he never finished school. Every night he scribbled one word on the cabin's whiteboard in Sharpie: replace. Not compete, not revenge, replace. Back in the city, Claire told a friend over brunch, "I think Adam finally snapped. He deleted everything, probably living in a van somewhere." Her friend laughed. "You finally scared him off. Good for you." Claire smirked and said, "He never could handle people who moved faster than him." But deep down, something itched at her. Not guilt, not regret, something worse, uncertainty, because Adam wasn't the type to just disappear. And people who go silent don't always stay quiet. Sometimes they're building. The request came from upstairs. Corporate wanted modernization across all regional branches. Claire, of course, had volunteered her division to pilot the transition. She called it leading from the front. What it really meant was more photo ops, more LinkedIn quotes about digital agility, and more time polishing her upward trajectory. When the CTO dropped the name of the firm, North Trace Consulting, she barely blinked. Never heard of them. That was part of the appeal. Small, private, invite only. High scores in security compliance, even higher in scalability. No flashy branding, no founder TED Talks, just results. Exactly the kind of low-profile, high-output firm that made executives look brilliant for discovering them. She didn't attend the kickoff call, sent her product director instead. "Just get the specs moving," she said, waving her assistant off mid-email. But something shifted 2 weeks in. Claire was walking past the new product showcase for the regional leads, half listening to her calendar being read aloud when a junior tech flagged her down. "Sorry, Claire, you might want to see this." She stepped into the small demo room, mostly to be polite. On screen, a sandbox version of their new internal dashboard glowed, sleek, intuitive, fast. The UX flow was almost quiet. No unnecessary flash, just logic and precision. She tilted her head. "Wait, this is our system?" The consultant, early 30s, buttoned up, neutral accent, nodded. "The new iteration, yes, based on your current API and form submissions, but rebuilt from scratch. Faster, cleaner, modular, fully integrable with your legacy databases for the next 18 months. Claire didn't like being surprised, but even she had to admit, it was stunning. "Who's the designer?" she asked, flipping through the printout. "This isn't off-the-shelf thinking." The consultant gave a tight smile. "The founder handled the core logic himself." "Then I'd like to meet him." Silence. "I'm sorry," the consultant said finally. "He doesn't take meetings." Claire blinked. "What?" "He built the deliverables, reviews the architecture, and handles final sign-offs. But he doesn't attend strategy calls or executive check-ins. NDAs are signed with the entity, not the individual." She forced a light laugh. "Is he in hiding, or just allergic to executives?" The consultant chuckled politely. "Let's just say he's focused." Something about that word irritated her. Focused. Who the hell builds this level of infrastructure and doesn't take a victory lap? Claire sat through the rest of the walkthrough in a fog. Everything worked. Not just technically, but philosophically. The system didn't just replace their old tools, it anticipated pain points she hadn't even flagged. Who was this guy? That night, sipping a lukewarm glass of wine in her apartment, she pulled up the firm's website, just a landing page with encrypted access for clients. No team page, no founder bio, just a logo, a geometric N in grayscale, and the line, "Systems built for silence." She stared at that tagline, "Systems built for silence." Why did that feel like a whisper against her neck? She searched deeper. Nothing. Northtrace had no press presence, no founder LinkedIn, no Medium articles, not even a basic Crunchbase profile. The deeper she dug, the more the absence bothered her. This was her world. She was supposed to be the expert at sniffing out ghost players in the market. She was the one with the connections. But Northtrace had walked into her company, rebuilt their core toolset, and no one knew who was behind it. She minimized the window and stared at her reflection in the dark screen. For the first time in years, Claire felt something she hadn't felt since the early days of her career. Not jealousy, not even fear, just unease. Like the sensation of realizing you're not holding the leash, you're wearing it. The folder landed with a soft thwack beside her keyboard, an inch-thick stack of updated vendor contracts, security reviews, and a summary of Q2 compliance shifts. Claire didn't even glance at her assistant. She just gave the usual dismissive nod while finishing her call with procurement. She'd gotten good at ignoring paperwork. That's what titles were for. Delegation. She skimmed most of it anyway. Bullet points, red lines, the occasional hand-scribbled note. Her eyes glazed over by page 12. Clause 5, Vendor Ownership Disclosure. Clause 6, External Penetration Audit. Clause 7, Platform Licensing Renewal. Blah, blah, blah. Until she hit the signature line. Her pen hovered mid-scribble. There, beneath the tidy legal formatting, was a name she hadn't seen on paper since the divorce decree. Adam J. Morris, founder, Northtrace Systems. Her hand didn't shake, not visibly, but she dropped the pen without realizing it. For a moment, the office noise faded. No clacking keyboards, no soft conversations outside the glass. Just that name, like a siren scream in her head. She flipped the page over, looked again. Adam J. Morris, founder. She snatched her phone and Googled Northtrace Systems. The result was sterile, efficient, brutal. Northtrace Systems, secure, scalable, silent, valuation, last round, $22 million, clients, Department of Municipal Affairs, Langford Energy, CoreMed HealthNet, and 6 private sector firms, undisclosed. Founded 11 months ago. Public launch 6 weeks after Claire Bishop's firm's annual party. Her blood went cold 6 weeks after the party. She looked around her office, the ergonomic chair, the awards shelf, the branded wall calendar that still featured her quote from last quarter, "Innovation starts with disruption." She'd disrupted all right. She'd mocked him into building a damn empire. This wasn't a hobby startup. This was institutional software, the kind you build if you want to replace someone, not support them. She reread the name like it might vanish, like her eyes were wrong. Adam, the man she introduced at her party as her practice husband, the man she belittled in front of VPs and clients, the man who'd raised a glass and said 7 quiet words before walking out. "Cheers, you'll never see me again." Well, she was seeing him now, not on Instagram, not in her inbox, in the legal infrastructure of her company. He'd signed their back end into compliance. His name was in every licensing form, every update trigger, every integration approval. He wasn't haunting her, he was underwriting her. She pulled up the internal procurement tracker and checked the recent billing summary. Licensee, Northtrace Systems. Contract, non-exclusive. Renewal, auto. Control, external. It was all legit, all signed, all embedded. She called her CTO. "Did you know who founded Northtrace?" He hesitated. "No idea. We just worked through the consulting lead." "Did you ever ask?" "The performance is flawless. Why would we?" Claire hung up without responding. The shock wasn't just that he existed. It was that he had moved past her without ever needing her to notice. She'd mocked him in public. He'd signed her infrastructure in silence. She reached for her wine bottle, realized it was empty, then stared out the window. The city skyline, so often a symbol of her rise, now looked fragile. Because somewhere out there, maybe not even far, Adam was building, not shouting, not parading, just replacing. And the worst part, he wasn't coming back to prove a point. He didn't need to. He was the point. She sent the email at 5:47 a.m., a tight, formal subject line. Request, Strategic Sync W/founder urgent. 3 sentences, no fluff, no emojis. She even signed it with her full title, something she hadn't done in years. Claire Bishop, SVP, Digital Operations and Infrastructure. Then she stared at her screen, coffee going lukewarm, waiting for the little dot to turn green. By 8:13 a.m., she got a reply from founder at northtrace.systems. Subject, Strategic Sync. Claire, I don't attend status calls. My team handles deliverables. You'll find them sufficient. Best, A. Morris. No greeting, no warmth, no hope you're well, just protocol. It hit harder than if he'd called her a snake, or a parasite, or whatever term he'd probably earned the right to use by now. She read it 3 times. The punctuation didn't even waver. Every sentence bled professionalism so clean it felt clinical. She replied instantly, Adam, I'm not requesting a status call. This is about broader alignment and vision. We need to ensure long-term interoperability between our platforms. Let's connect. 20 minutes. Off record. Nothing. No bounce back. No follow-up. Just silence. Claire sat in that stillness longer than she meant to. Her assistant eventually buzzed in. The regional leads are on the line. She waved it off. Tell them I'll join late. The day passed. The next. Still no reply. But the sprint didn't suffer. In fact, the next rollout was delivered early. Bug-free. Optimized. One of her engineers wrote in the internal Slack, Northtrace's tool feels like it knows what I need before I do. Another replied, Can we just outsource the whole roadmap to them? Claire deleted the thread without commenting. At the next leadership check-in, the CTO presented the integration report like a man revealing a buried treasure. Look at this. Downtime cut by 86%, data redundancies removed, CPU loads halved, and their failover protocols? Honestly, it's like working with the NSA but less paranoid. Good, Claire muttered. But we still don't know where it's going. Where what's going? He asked. She didn't answer, because what she wanted to say was, I don't know what he's building next, or if we're just the warm-up. Instead, she stared at the last line of his email again. You'll find them sufficient. She'd underestimated the weight of that phrase. Not hostile, not dismissive, just final. He wasn't dodging her. He'd simply removed her from the list of people who mattered. She used to be the one who called the shots. People bent for her calendar. She snapped her fingers and vendors restructured entire workflows. But Adam didn't need to fight her. He didn't need her time. He didn't even need her face in the room, because Claire was no longer a threat. She was just a client. And the worst part, she was a satisfied one. The quarterly board meeting was going exactly how Claire wanted. Polished slides, controlled talking points, a steady stream of nods and glances of approval as she clicked through the metrics. Adoption rate up 62%, ticket resolution time down 41%, employee onboarding time sliced in half, all thanks to the Northtrace integration. She even allowed herself a small smile when the CFO praised her for leading the transition with surgical precision. Her eye caught the reflection of herself in the glass wall, sleek, composed, powerful. Then came the question. It floated in with a casual tone from a director who rarely spoke unless it involved asset consolidation or antitrust thresholds. So, Claire, just to clarify, can Northtrace license this platform to our competitors? The room stilled. Claire's smile froze mid-expression. What do you mean exactly? The director leaned back. Simple question. We're investing heavily in integrating this tool into our operations. If they turn around and offer it to, say, Kepler Group or Falcon Core, do we have any exclusivity? The CTO looked at her. Legal looked at her. Claire's throat dried instantly. I believe we negotiated favorable terms, she said carefully. I'll double-check the specifics. The director nodded, unfazed. Good, because if they can license this to everyone else, then what we're calling a competitive edge might actually be shared infrastructure. No one argued. The rest of the meeting blurred. Claire finished her presentation, but the applause was distant, unearned. She left the building with a fixed smile and fire behind her eyes. At home, she didn't even remove her heels. She dropped her bag, kicked the door shut, and pulled her laptop open on the kitchen counter. She found the original contract, opened it, scanned. Clause 12.4, licensor reserves the right to engage with additional clients under materially identical terms. All licensees are independent of one another and bound only to their respective agreements. Her pulse ticked upward. Clause 12.5, Northtrace shall retain full ownership of structure, framework, logic flow, and all derivative system constructs unless otherwise negotiated. She read it again and again. It wasn't just non-exclusive, it was strategically open. He could walk into any competitor's office tomorrow, hand them the same system, and they'd have the same upgrade within weeks. No changes needed, no rework, just a silent handoff, and her edge would dissolve overnight. Her heart thudded, not in fear, in pure, undiluted panic, because Adam hadn't just built a better tool, he'd built it to be portable. Her edge wasn't an edge, it was scaffolding, temporary, borrowed, and if he ever signed with Falcon Core or Kepler or any of the 5 companies gunning for their next quarter positioning, she'd be obsolete, overnight. She closed her laptop and stood still in the dark kitchen, staring at nothing. This wasn't a software vendor. This was a systems architect, and he hadn't walked away from her life. He'd erased her from his, not by shouting, not by revenge, by designing her out of relevance, one clause at a time. It started small, so small Claire almost convinced herself it wasn't happening. A junior account manager, fresh out of business school, still too green to wear anything but nervous smiles, approached her after a cross-department meeting. "Hey, just a heads up," he said. "I looped in Northtrace directly on the reporting delay from Ops. Their support guy, Wes, said he could reroute the query queue." Claire blinked. "You went to them before me?" He flushed. "Sorry, I just figured since it's their platform now." She cut him off with a tight-lipped nod. "Got it, thanks." It was the second time that week. By Friday, it was happening daily. Staff didn't come to her anymore with workflow issues or integration bugs. They messaged Northtrace directly. Their support wasn't just helpful, it was fast. Replies within minutes, fixes within hours. And it wasn't just the tech team. She caught HR using the Northtrace dashboard during a compensation review. When she asked why, the director shrugged. "It's got real-time productivity tags now, easier to cross-reference." Claire leaned over her desk later and saw her assistant, Maya, tabbing between 2 dashboards. The legacy platform was frozen mid-load. The Northtrace system was running flawlessly, already populating upcoming task flows. Claire stepped into the room. Maya didn't even flinch. "Oh hey, just updating the partner onboarding status. The old tracker kept crashing." Claire didn't answer. She just walked back into her office and closed the door. Her chair didn't feel as comfortable anymore. The corner office, once a symbol of her ascent, now felt like a viewing box. She was watching her influence bleed out, slow, quiet, clinical. Northtrace wasn't just solving problems, it was replacing touch points. Claire used to be the authority. Every major platform change, every operational shift, every metrics review went through her. Now she was the person CC'd after things were already fixed. She opened the internal messaging logs, an executive privilege, and searched for Northtrace. Too many hits to count. Worse, in conversation after conversation, her name was absent. Her team had rerouted their instincts. She used to be the system. Now she was a checkpoint, a name on a memo, a layer people avoided. The illusion of control is easy to maintain until something faster, smarter, and less emotional replaces you. And the most unbearable part? They weren't sabotaging her. They weren't even noticing. They were moving on, without drama, without protest, just efficiency. Claire stayed late that night, not to work. There was nothing left for her to touch. She sat at her desk, lights off, watching the Northtrace dashboard update in real time. The system didn't need her, and neither did her people. The boardroom was unusually full for a Q3 sync, suits from HQ, a few new investor reps Claire didn't recognize. The kind of crowd that meant something big was being floated, and someone was about to be either praised or quietly escorted out the side door. She came in confident, hair sharp, slides rehearsed. This was her territory, results, metrics, growth, and this time, she had numbers. Northtrace's integration had slashed inefficiencies, improved client retention, and earned the company a glowing mention in TechLedger Weekly for Best Operational Rebound. Claire opened the meeting with a smile and a one-liner she'd written on the cab ride over. "Sometimes to move forward you need to let the old tools rust." Polite chuckles. She clicked to the first slide. Charts, timelines, improvement deltas. Investors nodded. The VP of Strategy leaned back and said, "Claire, this is impressive work. Northtrace has been a game changer." Another board member, a graying man with a voice like sandpaper, added, "We're seeing 3x throughput in service delivery, and clients are noticing." She nodded, soaking in the praise. Then it happened. A junior director raised a hand, a new face probably brought in from the last funding round. "Have we considered acquiring Northtrace directly?" Claire's fingers slipped slightly on the clicker. "I'm sorry," she said, forcing a polite smile. He repeated it, calm, direct. "Why don't we just acquire them?" Claire laughed lightly, eyes scanning for backup. "Northtrace is an independent firm. Their structure isn't exactly designed for acquisition." The strategy VP cut in. "We tried, actually, twice. Quiet offers through legal. Both declined. Claire blinked. You tried? Without? A third voice chimed in, the CFO. Adam Morris doesn't want to sell. He said, and I quote, my value isn't in merging, it's in replacing what no longer works. The room shifted. Claire choked a little on her water but masked it with a cough. The name hadn't been spoken in this room until now. Not Northtrace. Adam. Her Adam. Their ghost founder had a face now, and worse, a reputation. The CFO continued. Frankly, his refusal increased our confidence. Shows long-term vision, control. The board likes founders who don't panic when money's on the table. One of the older board members leaned forward, fingers steepled. He's more influential than our CTO right now. Maybe more than you, Claire. Silence fell like ice in a glass. Claire smiled mechanically. Well, let's remember, this transformation didn't just happen. It was shepherded, guided, integrated through my team's roadmap. Someone muttered, yeah, but it runs itself now, doesn't it? A chuckle in the back. That's when she felt it, the quiet unraveling. She had built the scaffolding for this stage, and now they were admiring the structure and wondering why the scaffolding was still here. Her job, the role she'd fought for, clawed toward, bled ego to maintain, was now tethered to a system designed by a man she'd once humiliated over free wine and shrimp skewers. She stared at the conference speakerphone in the middle of the table. If Adam had been on the call, she wondered, would he have said anything? No, he wouldn't have needed to, because in that room, packed with power, budgets, equity, his silence was power. Claire sat straighter, fighting to keep her face neutral, but inside the realization clawed through her spine. She was no longer presenting outcomes. She was the outcome, and the man they couldn't hire was the one now holding her future in the palm of his hand, closed. The message was short, no signature, no subject line. Let's meet, privately, no staff, no board, just us. She stared at the blinking cursor for nearly 5 minutes before hitting send. 20 minutes later, the reply came, 1 hour, 12th and Hawthorne, Suite 4B. She didn't ask how he knew she'd be available. The building was anonymous, brick exterior, blacked out windows, unbranded keypad on the door, the kind of place executives rented when they didn't want headlines or anyone seeing who walked out disappointed. He was already there when she arrived. No security, no laptop, just Adam, seated calmly at a rectangular table with a single notepad and a bottle of water he'd brought himself. No handshake, no pleasantries, just a nod as she took the seat across from him. Thank you, Claire started, hands folded so tightly her knuckles whitened. I know you don't take meetings. He waited. She exhaled. You built something remarkable. I won't pretend otherwise. Northtrace has outpaced our internal capacity threefold, and frankly, your vision is cleaner than anything I've seen in 15 years. Still no response. She leaned in, dropped the polished voice. Let me be clear. We need you. Not just the system. You. The thinking, the speed, the direction. Finally a flicker. His eyes narrowed, amused maybe, or just listening. I'm prepared to offer you a leadership role, she continued. Chief Innovation Officer, full autonomy, executive suite, budget discretion, no oversight. Silence. She kept going. You could shape the next generation of infrastructure from the inside, build the future with a team already bought in, no more solo flights, no more fighting the tide, you could fix everything we can't. He smiled. It wasn't warm, it wasn't cruel, it was clinical, clean, the smile of someone who already knew how this conversation would end. I built Northtrace, he said slowly, because I couldn't fit into companies like yours. Claire's throat tightened. She forced a chuckle. You didn't fit because you never tried. He ignored it. You think what you're offering is a lifeline, but it's an anchor. You want to drag me into the same meetings you drown in. She opened her mouth, but he raised a hand, politely, still calm, still cool. I'm not here to fix anything, he said. Then he leaned in slightly. I'm here to replace it. She flinched before she could stop herself. He pushed his chair back slowly, stood up, adjusted his sleeves. You still don't get it, Claire. This isn't revenge. It's architecture. He nodded at the door. Suites paid for another hour. Use the time. Then he walked out. No mic drop, no slamming doors, just the sound of his footsteps fading into the hallway like a closing file. Claire sat alone, suddenly aware of how loud the room was without voices. She had offered him power, and he offered her a countdown. The final blow didn't come with fanfare, no company-wide memo, no hushed boardroom ambush. It came in the form of a single sheet of paper waiting on her desk like a death certificate with a letterhead. The envelope was unsealed, almost lazy in its confidence. She pulled the document out with slow fingers, half hoping it was a misunderstanding. A policy update, a restructuring draft she was meant to review, not endure. But there it was. Effective immediately, department integration now led by North Trace Systems. Her name wasn't mentioned. Her title? Gone. Her staff? Reassigned. Claire scanned the page, her stomach free-falling somewhere beneath her tailored waistband. To ensure continued excellence in platform modernization and technical architecture, North Trace will assume operational leadership of the following departments. The list was her kingdom: systems, integrations, metrics, her empire of efficiency. There was a second document underneath. HR had thought of everything. A severance agreement, clean, final. The alternative, stay on as a strategic liaison with limited oversight authority. A figurehead, a puppet with a nameplate. She laughed out loud, sharp, bitter, guttural. A liaison? She had once mapped every wire in this building, trained the VPs, redlined the policies, handpicked the team. Now they were telling her to sit quietly while the man she'd mocked in front of shrimp cocktails and enterprise partners rewired the very structure she once ruled. She didn't even need to think. She signed, no notes, no final statement, just a signature and a hollow breath. When she stepped into the hallway with the folder clutched under her arm, she froze. The elevator doors across from her were opening. Out stepped a team of 5, crisp, purposeful, calm, branded polos, slim black laptop bags, badges already clipped, North Trace. They moved like they'd been here before, and behind them, last to exit the elevator, came Adam. No dramatics, no surprise in his eyes. Just a steady walk forward, eyes scanning the floor like he was taking mental inventory. He saw her. Their eyes met for half a second. He nodded once, not cold, not smug, just acknowledged her existence, as one would a passing monument. Then he walked past her, not a glance back, not a word. He didn't need to say anything, because the silence was louder now than her voice had ever been. She mocked his future, called him a dishwasher, a placeholder, a man with no degree, no plan, no presence. Now her presence didn't matter, because Adam had built a future without her and left her standing in the ruins of her own design, not by tearing it down, but by replacing every piece, until she was the last one left.